Most of them are.
Oh, I forgot the button. How could I forget the button on a fan-led Wednesday, dude?
Not only did you forget the button, I don't even know that the soundboard's connected because I couldn't even hear the intro music. Wasn't even coming through mine. Did other people hear it?
It's playing right now. Is it not working?
I don't know. I could not hear it. I could not hear it. Maybe somebody out there could hear it. Could you all hear that intro music? Maybe it was just me.
Somebody out there let me know because the music is playing right now and I have everything. Everything says it's working.
Tony
it's coming.
Petrosky doesn't hear it. Art H, no music. Audio.
All right, hold on.
Yeah. No audio. No audio. Solid start to the Wednesday show.
How about now? Still no music?
Nada.
Oh, you know what? Son of a B. I know exactly what it is. Oh, boy. Just one of those days. Now.
Hey, music. I can hear music.
I'm not going to do the whole thing again.
I'm just going to start by saying go blue.
What did I do?
Who knows? Who knows, Brandon?
It was the last time you and I were talking, and then I took my laptop upstairs, so I unplugged everything, and I had to switch the audio input to the computer microphone and not the keyboard. So there you go. Brandon Brown.
Dog.
Not a dog. Not a dog. Messing. Yeah, TFG right out of the gate. Your boy.
Right out the gate. There we go. Can hear that. See, hey, T-Mac spending your B-Day with the boys. Appreciate it.
That's one of those things that sucks, though, because it was perfect in my headphones because I'm plugged directly into it. So I had no idea that it wasn't working. I'm like vibing to the music. You're just sitting over there like in silence, like, what the hell?
Just hear myself breathing into the microphone.
All right. Fantastic. All right. There it is. It didn't take long, Chris. Let me have it. Come on. Let me have it.
Look, man, this is the thing. I don't want to be any part. I saw it. I saw what's, I saw the Twitter heat that's been thrown your way. We obviously had a lengthy conversation about it on the phone, and Twitter is a.
Look. We don't need to blame it on Twitter because it's been pointed out to me that what I said was not received very well, but that wasn't ever my intention. And I talked about it. I put another tweet out. Look, like, hadn't talked to Mike Hart since Indiana. And I said this before. I think I said it to you, Chris. I may have said it on Jamie Morris's show today. Like, Wednesday's kind of like hit or miss. Sometimes we go, sometimes we don't. Kind of depends on the situation, which coaches are going to be available, whatever. And I saw that Mike Hart was going to be there, and I was genuinely excited to see him again because we hadn't since before the situation at Indiana. And I knew people were going to ask about it. That was going to be the main focus. And maybe that's why. He didn't want that to be the main focus, which, like, that's not that abnormal. But somebody asked him a question about how he was feeling, how's he doing, and he chose not to answer it. And I was just surprised by that. That's all. I don't care if he answers it or not. It's his privacy. It's his life. It's his health. He can do however he wants to do there. I just thought, like, damn, like, a lot of people are concerned about Mike Hart. They're going to want to know what's going on with him. And he just chose not to answer it, which I was a little surprised by. That's it. Tweeted about it. Didn't even know it blew up into this big thing. Like, he doesn't owe you anything. No, he doesn't owe me anything. I don't care if he told us anything about it. It just got received the wrong way. Didn't mean for it to do that. Whatever. I felt bad that it went that way, but I just was surprised that we didn't get a little more information because I know that's why a lot of people were there, and specifically I can't remember the guy's name who asked the question, but it was the very first question that got asked, And Mike Hart chose not to answer it, which is cool. I mean, that's fine. He doesn't have to do anything up there that he doesn't want to. But that was about it.
Yeah, I think when anytime it comes to and we've talked about it quite a few times on the pod, because there's obviously several injuries that have occurred throughout the season. And anytime anybody brings up an injury, to me, it's like, I don't even like talking about it, because I do feel that way. I feel like it's none of our business. And if somebody wants to explain kind of what the injury is, then we put that on them. But what I will say is, I just think it's further evidence that, they're being careful with how things are presented, I think, is important, because on social media in particularly, and I've run into this a couple of times, not necessarily to this extent, but things can be taken however they're taken. And then once something goes out and spreads like wildfire, it's hard to bring it back in. I mean, I've worked with you for, a year and a half, have gotten to know you pretty well. And, all I can say is I don't think your intention was the way that it came out, but certainly people took it that way.
Right.
But one of the things I do want to say, one of the things I took issue with was in the Twitter comment, somebody brought me into it as like, oh, does this mean that there's beef with the winged? I just look.
Chris was out. He didn't even know it was happening. I feel horrible for that part of it.
But here's the thing. Like Brandon is the publisher of Wolverine Digest of Sports Illustrated. That's who Brandon Brown is. Me, Chris Breiler, I am the owner and creator of the Winged Helmet platform. And we've developed this partnership over the last year. But if I go out and say something, or I go out and do something, like, that stands on its own. If Brandon does the same thing, if he speaks or says something, like, those things stand on their own. So I think it's important that people understand that there's a distinction there, and that you should be able to operate independently. I should be able to operate independently without everything that happens, being a, falling under the umbrella of the Winged Helmet. I guess that's all I want to say. I think, from a personal standpoint, I feel like I put in a lot of work to make sure that the Winged Helmet brand is something that people can trust, and try to develop good relationships, do right by the players, just do good work. And I want to make sure that people understand that. And so I think as we work together as closely as we do, I think some of those lines get blurred. And I want people to understand that, Brandon is able to go out and tweet and say whatever he wants as Brandon Brown. That has nothing to do with the Winged Helmet or that platform or the work that I do there. We share work on the publishing site. Obviously, we have the podcast together, but beyond that, we operate independently. And I think that's something that people should be aware of. Now, that being said, I do think that there is something to, and the reason why I don't mess with Twitter a lot is because I feel like it is a very toxic environment where people will take something, they will run with it, and they will try to create whatever narrative they think benefits them. There are specific people out there that I feel like do it more than others that I take issue with. People with a sizable following, people who want to make things personal. And if that's the direction they choose to go, that's fine. Like, things can be personal on social media. I choose not to go down that road, but will certainly participate if I feel like unnecessary jabs are being thrown my way. And you're right, Tony Petrosky, it's not just Twitter, it's all of social media. But I notice it more so than any place else on Twitter, because there is a group of super fans who sort of have gathered together, and it's like, if you make the wrong move, they're going to put you on blast, and they're going to let you know about it. And I guess that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, like I said, I in the room at the time, hearing the question asked to Mike Hart, hearing how Mike Hart responded, I just, fired off something real. I don't know. It just spun into something I had no intentions of it spinning into. And part of it wasn't even my fault. As Chris said, people grab a hold of it, try to turn it into some narrative because they don't like something I said about Harbaugh once upon a time, whatever the hell it might be. I saw CJ Frazier mentioning, people want to create some narrative and cancel somebody and get someone in trouble. I mean, I can't count how many times people have grabbed me and then tweeted Jim Harbaugh in a tweet, like thinking that Harbaugh's gonna like see what I said about something like back 2 years ago, and then like it's just a weird.
And can I also say, just for the record, I see a lot of people say a lot of dumb shit on social media, a lot, and I rarely have anything to say. I just kind of sit back and I watch and I observe and see the way that people operate. And yeah, this absolutely, Adam, has nothing to do with James Yoder, not even a part of this. Yes, he is a tool, but not even a part of this. I just, there are some people on social media that have a knack for spending their entire week talking trash, whether it's with rival fans, whether it's with people within the own fan base, rather than putting out actual good content. And those people I have issues with. They seem to pop off at the mouth a lot. I try not to do that on social media, but it's getting harder and harder to do that when you feel like there's things coming your way that you don't really deserve. And so again, I'm just going to leave it at that. I think Twitter is toxic. I think a lot of the people on Twitter are toxic. I think a lot of people are confident to say things there that they wouldn't dare say in person. It's not like, personally speaking, I'm in hiding. I mean, I'm pretty easy to find, where we're at on Saturdays. And if people really have something that they want to say and they feel strongly about it, don't tweet it. Come say it directly. And I'll just leave it at that.
That never happens. And I mean,
Of course it never happens.
Or, encourage, but like, it's not that serious. But people think it is, and they take a route on Twitter that, like Chris said, they would never take in real life. And that's, I don't know. I don't go that route. I'm not trying to heap bad attention on people. I don't know why some people want to go that path.
Now, Brandon, you did give me the opportunity before we got on here to kind of bust your balls a little bit. So I am going to come at you a little bit. Look, I think personally the tweet was ill-advised. I think that the way that it came off left a lot of room for ambiguity and people to put, their own interpretation on it, even if that's not what you meant. And I think because of that, people took that tweet, read it for what it was, and it sort of spread the way that it did. And I think it's unfortunate. And then when I saw that I was brought into it, I'm like, what the, I'm out going through the course of my day and I see this notification and I pull it up and I'm like, what in that? Why am I involved in this? So I would just say, for future reference, we know how the social media world is. We just got to make sure that we if there's a message that we're trying to get out, that we present it in the most effective way so that these things can't happen. A lot of people curious about what the tweet was.
I mean, I'm not like ashamed of what I said. Like I said, it was just received the wrong way. I just said, I don't even remember where. I didn't delete it. I mean, I didn't say anything hurtful or harmful to anybody. I said, this is the first time we've seen Mike Hart since his health scare at Indiana game, and he won't talk about it at all. Okay, then. That's it. And Chris said the okay then had a problem, maybe.
I think the okay then.
I know how I said it in my head while I was in the room. It was just like, oh, okay then. Like, it was surprising that he didn't expand on it a little bit.
I think that was where, I think if the okay then hadn't been, you might have gotten a little bit of blowback. The okay then made it sound like you were taking issue with it. And again, the tweet was what it was. I don't think it was egregious, and the way that people chose to pick up on it. And that's what I hate about Twitter, is that now you get 100 to 200 to 300 people that are just constantly pounding on you. And, as we are, in this partnership, I can't help but take a little bit of that personally, specifically when there's certain groups that are doing it and calling attention to themselves and want to make it personal. So,
and then some guy has the gall to say, hey, Brandon, when do you plan to lose that 30 extra pounds you're carrying around? I mean, like, what are we doing?
Ouch. Yeah.
Well, as you can see, asshole,
the diet's going swimmingly.
I'm not worried about you.
Yeah.
You look fatter than me, by the way. Anyway, I don't care. Yeah, it was just one of those things. It was one of those things. Look, I lost like 2,000 followers on Twitter when I used to criticize Harbaugh. I'm good. Like, I'm fine. I just feel bad that Chris got roped into it. I feel bad that other people are upset with the way it was read when it's not how I meant it. It's whatever. I'm going to sleep fine tonight. I promise. It sucks. It sucks when that happens. And that was like, Chris's main point when we talked about it earlier. He's like, I just don't want to deal with this. I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't even there. I didn't even know what happened. And like, that part sucks. I don't want that to happen. And it is what it is. I will say, Mike Hart did look good. He was very, he heaped. Dude, what a week for Blake Corum, by the way. He's been getting so much praise heaped on him this week, and deservedly so. Jim Harbaugh talking about him being the best back he's ever been around, except for maybe Frank Gore. Mike Hart probably used the word special 20 times when talking about Blake Corum today. And, it was just more evidence that Blake Corum is kind of destined for New York, it feels like. And Chris and I talked about it on Monday. I don't know if he'll win it. It's hard. It's a hard award for running backs to win. But, it was a good press conference other than me putting my foot in my mouth mistakenly and now having to put out fires all day. It's Twitter. That's Twitter in a nutshell right there.
Yeah. Well, going back to, the whole Blake Corum thing and getting back to the task at hand, and we're about 15 minutes into the show, and I know it's fan-led Wednesday, and so we're definitely going to get to the questions, but yeah, Blake Corum, that guy, and here's a side note I want to say about Blake Corum is I'm working on a special, this project I'm working on with Blake Corum is probably one of the most special things I think I've had the privilege to be a part of. You're going to start to see some of that stuff come out tomorrow. But just, you talk about the production on the field. You talk about how consistent he is. You look at the numbers. He's up over, 125, 130, 140 yards every single week. He's Mr. Consistency. These guys can always count on him. But then you also look at the kind of guy he is off of the field. And I think he just embodies everything you want in a football player. And I've said this a bunch of times, like if you could have 120 Blake Corums on your team, you take that all day long. And so I think Michigan fans, we're lucky to have him here in Ann Arbor. And I'm really, really excited to see, I know we got Nebraska, I know we got Illinois, but he's got an opportunity to go out and have his Heisman moment. It's in front of him. It's November 26th. We know what we're looking at. But if there's a running back that deserves to be in New York at the end of the year, to me, my money's on Blake Corum.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things that Mike Hart, and I'm not seeing a ton of questions yet. So you guys start firing them off.
It is fan-led Wednesday, by the way. Yeah, get your questions out.
Wednesday night. If you've got questions, ask them. I know a lot of this has been about what we've been talking about. And I didn't really intend to spend that much time on it, but a fan did ask, so we're doing our job, I guess, at this point. How many ounces is this mug? 100?
A lot.
No, I don't know. It's a
lot of ounces.
It's a lot. That's your big boy right there. That's God. I gotta keep it locked on that.
That's your big boy.
Anyway. So I did see a question here earlier. I think it's, well, you know what? Let me back up to, we did get a couple donations, Chris. I'm deeply disturbed by this first one. You know what, Chris? I'm going to let you read this one. All right. Got it? Here we go. Go ahead.
Let's see it. Sliding into my bubble bath, my guy, Nick, former, just a couple of bath boys here, hashing it out, was a little bit more difficult. Perfect. Was a little bit more difficult to get in my Michigan banana hammock this time because I was a little excited. Well, I should have read the question before I started reading through it. Damn it.
So I wanted you to have that one.
What is that, a jab at me for taking baths? Yes, I take baths. I own it. Probably 3 to 4. Did I take one today already? No, I have not taken my bath today. I'll probably take it later.
I don't think he's jabbing you at all. I think he's on a journey. Are
you really getting in the bubble bath? Well, if that's the case, Nick, I appreciate the $9.99. Please enjoy your bath. I hope you're watching us from the tub. Look at, man, sliding into the tub and watching some sports videos. That's pretty much as good as it gets.
Wow.
Take yourself a little
on the edge of the tub.
Little winged helmet beer in there with you. Lock the door. Tell your wife and kids, leave you the hell alone.
There it is.
Just have your own man time. You need
Chris
that.
Fields with the donation on Nick's honesty and the story that he just told. So appreciate that as well. All right. The question I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you your true shine because I can't find it now. But the question was, with 3 games left, maybe a Big Ten championship, maybe the playoff, certainly a bowl game, whatever, is Blake Corum getting the ball too much? I mean, is that even a thing at this point, Chris? Do you feel like too much wear and tear? You need to back it down a little bit. I'm curious.
I'm offended that somebody would even ask if Blake Corum's carrying the ball too much. No, there was somebody that brought this up on the Facebook page and said, given the fact that Michigan is facing Nebraska and Illinois over the next 2 weeks, should Michigan limit his carries and make sure that he's ready for Ohio State? Hell no. Blake Corum is built for a full season Let that man eat. He is on pat. He's on track for a Heisman campaign. Do not take anything off of that man's plate because, quite honestly, Michigan leans heavily on his production, even against teams that they should be able to handle and beat convincingly. And so I think absolutely the formula works. Give the ball to Blake Corum. Let him do what he does. And then anything that happens outside of that is just kind of icing on the cake. But no, I don't think there's any sense in limiting Blake Corum at this point. You're in the final third of the season now. You're making your push to, not just the playoff committee that you belong in the picture, but you've got to be right for Ohio State. You've got to be in the groove. Feed that man, let him eat, and let him do what he does.
So there you go.
By the way, not just that, but if you take a look at where he's at and where he's on track to be, he has the opportunity to put together the single most prolific single season of any running back in Michigan history. That's got to be, I don't think it's on the forefront of his mind. He said multiple times the personal accolades are not something that he's focused on, but you can't help but think a little bit about that. And that might be on his mind. And I mean, shit, if you can walk away from, the University of Michigan having the single most successful season as a running back, that's something incredible to hang your hat on. And I really hope he gets there because he is the type of guy that you want to see in that position. No doubt.
I mean, anybody who does anything wants to be the best at it. That's human nature. Like if you can go out and say like, I had the best, whatever, that you of course want to do that. I mean, I do believe Blake when he says it's not about the individual accolades, but like, dude, anybody who works as hard as he does at something would love to go down as the best at it. There's just, I mean, that's just,
I think Jim Harbaugh even said that in an earlier press conference this season that, there's nobody that embodies selflessness more than Blake Corum. And that just, again, speaks to his character, speaks to his upbringing. I don't know if Mr. Corum is in the house tonight. Sometimes he frequents the show, but man, hell of a job they did raising that kid. Cause he is, I mean, just an impressive guy, top to bottom, physically, what he's able to do athletically, and then who he is as a person, delivering turkeys. He's involved in these, these charitable events. I mean, he's just a really good dude.
After the day I've had, I'm going to give myself a little love from a hometown homie, Dan Genro, buddy of mine for a long time. Tear. I got a tear. Thank you, Dan. Coming to my defense. That's right. If you know me, I'm not a dick. I'm just not a dick. Well, if you got it coming, Mike Hart doesn't. I wasn't a dick. I wasn't being a dick to Mike Hart. All right. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Little shout out there from the old stomping grounds, the Metropolis that is New Lothrop. All right. I think we've got another donation, Chris. Any surprise that we got this one coming? There it is.
The consistency of this guy. And the questions are always on point. Do you think MSU will retain a new lawyer? I honestly thought that letter was a...
Well, Chris, you dove deeper than most thought anyone would. So the floor is yours.
Hey, I placed the call just thinking, here's what will happen. I figured I'll pick up the phone. I'll make the call. I assumed once it came out and people were reading it that his law office was probably going to be inundated with calls, either people just calling to tell him that he's go ahead.
Let's back up one just in case people don't know what we're talking about.
In case people don't know. Sure. Yeah. Set the stage.
Let me set the stage a little bit. So an attorney out in California, David D. Diamond. I mean, put a letter out that he apparently penned with a team of other legal counsel explaining that it was actually a Michigan player who instigated the fight in the tunnel and then went on to, I'm not going to step on your toes with this part, but like, he's using examples that have nothing to do with anything. And it was bizarre. I thought there is no way that this is legitimately from a lawyer. Me and Chris were talking about it. I'm like, dude, I might give him a call. And then we started seeing that like verified news people were reporting this as news. And I'm like, I would assume that they vetted it. It is real. I can't believe it. That's crazy. Whatever. And I'm just going to leave it alone. And then Chris took over and ran with it a little. He grabbed the baton and took off.
I felt because it was such a ridiculous statement. And as people were reading it, there were several people that thought this has to be satire. This can't be real. I can't believe people are thinking that this is an actual statement coming out from a real lawyer. And so I wanted to do my due diligence and I figured I'd give him a call. And like I said, the statement had been out for so long that I figured their office was probably being inundated with calls. They weren't going to be taking any. I was going to go to a voicemail, and that would be the end of it. Well, lo and behold, I just did the dial by name directory, and one David D. Diamond picks up the phone, and I'm like partially in shock. I'm like, hello? Is this like the David D. Diamond? And we continued to talk for about 10 minutes, and I asked him about some of the statements that were included in what he had written and what he had put out, including the fact that, they have, I think it insinuated that a player started the whole deal, really went after Jim Harbaugh, talking about him, a master. I don't know if it's a master manipulator, howling at the moon. He brought up an incident that happened in 1995 when he was a student at Michigan State University, where apparently his former girlfriend got a cup of spit thrown on her. He brought up the Devin Bush incident, but spelled Devin Bush's name incorrectly. And then look, I am not a Pulitzer Prize winning writer. Like, if you look at the articles I write, you can tell I didn't go to school to be a writer. Like, I'm a content creator. I'm a creative type guy. Articles are part of what I do, but the photography, the design, doing those things, that's what comes natural to me. The writing is sort of a byproduct of all of that. This statement looked like it was written by a 10-year-old, the way it was put together. So obviously I had a lot of questions. I gave him the opportunity to sort of correct some of the things that he said in that statement. And no, he stood by every single word of it. And then I pressed him I said, as part of the statement, you said that there's compelling evidence that it was instigated by a Michigan football player. And I pressed him on that. And he said, well, I said, is there direct evidence? Do you have evidence? And he said, well, I think we can make a compelling case, which long story short means you don't have shit. And so that was pretty much what everybody expected. And then as you start to do a little more research about this law firm, I've heard people, compare it to an ambulance chaser out there in California who's just trying to practice injury law and get his 15 minutes, and certainly got some 15 minutes based on that statement he put out, but not the kind of 15 minutes I think you would want.
Yeah, I think when Chris and I were talking about this, there may have been a My Cousin Vinny reference. I mean, it was, it
was bad.
We really questioned what exactly is going on here, and it just, I couldn't believe that it was legitimate.
It felt less like a lawyer putting out an actual statement about what they believed was the case, and more like somebody who went to Michigan State who was just pissed off and offended and wanted to take jabs at Michigan. And I can tell you, look, I'm not in the business of giving advice to Michigan State football players, but if that's the type of representation you're hiring, I hope you're not throwing any money that guy's way, because that was, all that did. There were even people on the Michigan State side that were like, look, I think Michigan's in the wrong here. I think Michigan did this. That statement was wacky and wild. So even folks on the other side were like concerned about it.
Well, Nick really is in the bubble bath. His banana hammock is now gone. He's drinking. He mentioned his female partner being we're done here, Nick. You enjoy the night. You keep your money in. I don't know where you've got it right now.
I don't know. Where are you pulling the money from?
Leave it there.
Yeah. I'm not going to read too much into it. But listen, hey, I respect any man who takes a bath. Any man who takes a bath. Men need baths too.
The two Utes. Love it. One of my favorite movies.
By the way, if you haven't seen My Cousin Vinny, what are you doing? Get out there, rent it, watch it immediately. It is a classic. It is hilarious.
What are you doing? That is a great question. If you have not seen My Cousin Vinny, what are you doing? A lot wrong, I'll say. A lot. Get that on the slate. All right, let me see. I saw a question. There it is. Louis Miller. He wants to know, what would we do if Michigan won the national championship? That's a pretty vague question, but I get where he's coming from, because it given where Michigan was just 2 seasons ago in 2020, and then how last year went, Chris and I were, lucky enough to be on that journey. We were down there in South Florida at the Dolphin Stadium, running around.
Got tattooed in South Florida.
Added up. Palling around with Dan Marino.
A heavily drunk Dan Marino, by the way.
Rubbing elbows with Stephen Ross. digging through the trash. We were in it.
Dude, could you see how disappointed Dan Marino was when I asked for a selfie? He was like just trying to enjoy a cocktail, bloodshot eyes, like a mother, just enjoying his time. And he was gracious enough. He let it happen. But man, that dude did not want any pictures.
He was.
And I wouldn't either if I was in that kitchen, to be honest.
Would you not? You don't think you would?
I don't know. I'm usually pretty cool about that stuff. But who the hell's trying to take a picture with me? Look at him. Zoom in on Marino. Get in there on him.
Sauced. But a great time. So Chris, he saw Dan Marino. He had to get out of here. It was just too much for him to handle. Anyway, Louis, I mean, first and foremost, immediately when I read your question, I'm just thinking we're along for the ride. And that would be, I mean, I'm already so excited about going to Columbus. 11-0, number 2 versus number 3, barring something very unexpected. I mean, I know we're not trying to get out in front of our skis here, but Michigan's got why am I drawing a blank? Nebraska. Good Lord, I couldn't even think straight there. Nebraska.
And the Corn Hoosiers?
The Corn Hoosiers. And then Illinois. And Ohio State has Indiana and Maryland. Both teams are going to be favored by a lot over those two teams. It's setting up for an incredible, essentially punch your ticket to the playoff, probably punch your ticket to the Big Ten championship for sure. I can't even wait for that. So you take it up to another level where not only do they make it to the playoff, but they make it to the title game and win. I mean, dude, last year was like a magic carpet ride. I cannot imagine how I would feel about that. Just being able to cover it, being able to see all of that, the bowl festivities for the week. We're down in Florida last year for 4 or 5 days, and we didn't even get there as early as the rest of the media did, honestly. So yeah. I don't really know if I answered it. I'm hoping it happens. It would be an incredible ride. It would be so much fun. It's way more fun to cover a good team, as we found out in both football and basketball at times. So I mean, that would be incredible. There's not enough adjectives to describe how that would be.
Yeah, I think the only thing I can add to that, and playing off of what that experience was like last year, just going from a fan to having the opportunity to cover that team as closely as we did, it was just it's another one of those things that it's several life moments that just you won't forget, and it means a whole hell of a lot. And it seems like Michigan is on track to do that. There is no real juggernaut. I mean, I know Georgia looks really good, but it seems like Michigan has, for the first time in a very, very long time, like a legitimate shot to win a national championship. And to be able to not only experience that as a fan, but to experience that as someone who gets to cover the team up close and be down there and be in the mix. I mean, you're talking about, you're talking about things that happen in your life that you'll just remember forever, and they mean a lot. And so what would I do? Probably get drunk as hell. I mean, that would probably be on the agenda, but I would tie one on. I would party. I would enjoy it. I would probably polish off a bottle of the Woodson whiskey like we did prior to Penn State, I think. Had to go in and take some photographs after that rough afternoon. But yeah, man, I think we would enjoy it just like any other fan would.
Mark Mix is strong today. He asked a good question earlier, and I really want to endorse anybody using the word honky. It's one of my favorites, so I want to put that up there. But somebody said, we were talking about my cousin Vinny. Someone said, go rent it, and he said, this honky said rent it. Like there's a Blockbuster. That's fantastic, Mark. Thank you
so
much.
Go down to Family Video over there right on the corner.
That's good.
Yes. Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, because you comment on, is it fighting or fitting? I'm going to go with fitting for right now, but if it's not, tell me how to pronounce it right so I don't get it wrong. But yes, I would have Marino eyes. If Michigan wins the national championship, your boy's going to be a little tipsy.
There's no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
And where is the national championship game this year, by the way?
I think it's in LA at SoFi, dude, where the Rams play. Yeah. The brand new, like $3 billion state, probably more than that. I don't know. It's crazy looking from the outside, the inside.
Fresh off a national championship out in LA. Somebody better. I better have my wife out there with me putting on one. You know how you used to see those kids in the mall that would have the leash on it so they couldn't get too far away from their parents? You better just leash me up and keep me from getting too far away.
Yeah. This is a good question from Chris Fields, and he usually throws us money and doesn't even attach a question to it. So I'm gonna.
What the hell is this, Chris Fields? Asking a question without money? This is unacceptable.
Unacceptable. All right. Would you rather? I mean, I know where this is going to go for most people, but I think it is a valid question, especially given how many people have talked about this as like move all the the end of the year games indoors. So you don't. Ohio State should get benefit of the doubt because it was rainy in Northwestern. Like, it's been crazy how much this has been discussed. But his question is this, Chris: would you rather there be bad weather in Columbus, or would you rather it be beautiful and the chance to beat Ohio State at its best, no room for excuses, discredit all that nonsense, and Michigan gets the win, sunny skies?
Dude, give me all the goddamn elements. Give him. I want it to be blizzard conditions,
not
windy, bitterly cold. I want it to be just a shitstorm of all kinds of different weather coming through Columbus. Not because I think it's an excuse for Michigan to win, but what I think it does is it proves that Ohio State is a one-dimensional team that is soft, that can be rattled if the conditions aren't just right for them to play at peak performance. And so, yeah, give me the weather, because you know what? Michigan's going to be playing in that weather too. And their brand of football carries over. I don't care if it's 95 degrees out and sunny skies. I don't care if it's a blizzard. Michigan's style of play works no matter what the conditions are. So that being said, the fact that Ohio State seems to be as flustered as they are, if a breeze blows through, give me the elements in Columbus. And I think in late November, you can probably count on it.
I mean, dude, can I ask a question? Who is more ready for LA than this duo right here?
Oh my goodness. Look at you boys. And that's sober.
Oh, this is sober as a pope right here.
Where was that at? Was that Miami?
Yeah, that's
Miami.
We got the credit.
Yeah.
Who's more ready for LA than us?
Just
get out of town.
Did I tell you about the trip at LAX? Side note, I was at LAX. And this was years back. This is when Chappelle's show was like at its height. I was at LAX, missed my flight, went out to smoke a cigarette at the time. I don't recommend it, but at the time, this was, I don't know, when was Chappelle's show big? Like 2005, 2004, somewhere around there. Missed my flight, was stressed out, went outside to smoke a cigarette, was out there by myself. Lo and behold, somebody else comes walking out there. It's just me and one other individual, one Mr. Dave Chappelle.
Unreal.
One Mr. Dave Chappelle out there having a cigarette as well. And my biggest regret is that I didn't say a damn word to him. He just looked like he was chilling. He was enjoying his peace and quiet. I was out there enjoying my peace and quiet. But I regret, at this point, I'd love to have that picture of him and I smoking a cigarette together.
How I know you now, I can't fathom that you didn't speak to him.
Well,
I mean, I saw you damn near tackle Gretchen Whitmer. I saw you run up and get a selfie.
Big Gretch, Big Gretch, and Mel Tucker. You see, it was at the height of the Chappelle show. It was Rick James bitch. It was all that stuff. To me, he was just like this super celebrity, and I felt like he was just out there kind of trying to get a moment's peace, and I wanted to give that to him. And it's a memory I have, but damn it, I would have liked to have gotten that picture.
Couple good ones from AJ Cooper here, Chris, and again, thank you for the donation, Mr. Cooper. Hang in with Mr. Cooper tonight.
Hey,
I like both of these questions. The first one, Chris, are we worried about the first half problems? We talked about it earlier in the week. It's kind of been a discussion for a while. I was asked about it on Jamie's show today, and I don't really have an answer. And I started to think about it because Harbaugh's been asked about it. I think George Hilo was asked about it today. I don't really know if the coaches have, if they know behind closed doors, they certainly aren't saying it out loud. But I don't really know why Michigan's first halves have been so different from their second halves. We get all the buzzwords, adjustments, and 60 minutes of football and all 4 quarters, and guys just want it. And conditioning has been brought up a little bit, but I really don't know how to answer it. I don't know how to answer it why But the answer, the if I'm worried, a little bit. You can't do this against Ohio State or in a big bowl game or in a playoff. You can't.
That's where I'm at. I'm not worried about it over the next 2 weeks, but I don't think Michigan fans are, again, if you're a fan, the next 2 weeks, Michigan's going to win. They're going to be just fine. This is about Ohio State getting past them, winning a Big Ten championship, and then getting into the college football playoff. And in those instances, you cannot afford to have slow starts. You can't afford to go into the half trailing and then expect that you're going to do what they've been able to do over the last 4 games, which is outscore opponents 100-3, because the competition is going to increase significantly when you're talking about teams like Ohio State, Georgia, a TCU. It's not going to be that easy. And so, yeah, there is something to me that's like, okay, if it's 66-48 or whatever the first half is versus 100-3, why can't we take a little bit of that success and apply it in the first half and not even put ourselves in that situation where the game is that close? And I think, look, I don't know if it's a matter of holding something back. I don't know if it's a matter of, just waiting until the right moment to use it, but it would certainly be nice to see Michigan to get out to a big first half lead and then continue that dominance into the second half. And I think that's the recipe for how you beat Ohio State. If you go into the half in Columbus, trailing by a touchdown, trailing by 2 touchdowns, I don't think you're going to shut them down the way that you've been able to shut down these other teams. I think they've got to find a way to get off to better starts.
You cannot play against teams with equal or more talent than you in their house, mind you, for the Ohio State game. In a 7-3 10-point hole tied. I mean, you like at halftime, you can't do it. You cannot do it and expect to have the same outcome you had against, no offense, but a Rutgers or an Indiana or a you just can't. You can't do it.
Let me put it this way: if Michigan goes into the half against Ohio State down 14-17, they're not going to outscore the Buckeyes in the second half by a score of 38-0. That's not going to happen. So yeah, I would say a little bit concerned. I don't know if it's a first half problem. I just think there has to be more of an emphasis on put up some points in the first half. Do what you do defensively in the first half. What you've been doing in the second half, do it in the first half. Whatever it is. I don't know if it's that Michael Jordan secret sauce, that little bottle where they had him drink it. Whatever it is, whatever they're doing in the half, just do it before you come out on the field. Start beating the shit out of teams right out the gate.
It was just water.
Water? H2O?
All right. They just wrote it on there and they started to believe, Chris. Isn't that right?
You know what?
Anything?
No, that is it. Yeah. They put special, but it was just water.
Right.
Yeah. See, that's all up here. That whole score discrepancy, first half, second half, if you want to attribute it to adjustments, whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's all up here. It's all the mentality. And it sounds cliche, but that really is the difference. It's the same players out there. They're doing the same type of shit. The only difference is they come out of the second half and their mentality is a little bit different. Just have a little bit of that in the first half.
Feels that way. And his other question, AJ's other question, is Will Johnson making a case to start? I mean, that's what he's been doing all year. I mean, and I'm not to disparage DJ Turner or Jamon Green. Yeah, they're not top 10 picks. I mean, like, they can play, but Will Johnson was a 5-star kid. He's one of the most coveted corners in the country. You bring him here to try to beat out those other 2 guys. Now, DJ Turner and Jamon Green have been really good, but, Will Johnson has been brought along to push those guys and potentially take a job from one of them. That's just how it works. Last week, he got a chance to start. He got a pick. He looked great earlier in the year. I know it was kind of like a specific thing, but it was like he was like the highest rated corner in press man on third down. It was like a weird thing from Pro Football Focus, but he was doing a really good job in kind of a high pressure situation for corners as a true freshman. He's been getting quite a few snaps. He's clearly not overmatched physically. He's plenty big enough. He's plenty strong enough. He's got the ball skills. It's one of those things where it's like, all right, if you put him in, you're taking one of the other guys out. I don't know if I like that either, but I think what he proved is if suddenly one of those cornerbacks couldn't play for the rest of the year, you're good. Like, Will Johnson will be just fine. And so I think once Jamon Green's back to healthy, like it's going to go back to normal. Will Johnson will play his 20, 30 snaps a game. And in a pinch, if you need him, he's completely comfortable. But I think at this point, I mean, we're about to play the 10th game of the season. If Jamon Green's healthy, if DJ Turner's healthy, they're the two guys.
Yeah. But I mean, to answer the question, yeah, I do think he's making a solid case to start and has been making a solid case to start. I mean, going all the way back to the Maryland game where it was close in the second half, Will Johnson was out there at critical times and he was making plays. And I think it's just a matter of, you got a lot of guys at that position, a handful of guys who can start and play well, and they've got some seniority there, and so they're going to get the benefit of the doubt. But certainly, there's not a very long leash on any of those guys who make a mistake when you've got a guy like Will Johnson on the sideline, because he is everything you want physically. I mean, we saw him, dude, when we were traveling around the state of Michigan with the team and they were out on the beach and they were running routes. It was like, Will Johnson is a grown-ass man out there. Like this guy is ready to play now. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's made a pretty compelling case to start, especially with what he did this past weekend in Rutgers.
No question. I'm going to put this question up. I don't like it, and I don't like Sean Bennett for asking it. Basically, Chris, would you rather be kicked in the right ball or the left ball?
Well, I'm left-handed. So
he says, his question is, would you rather lose to Ohio State by 50 or lose to Nebraska and Illinois?
What the hell kind of question is that?
What are you doing?
Neither. No, never. I'm not even going to answer that. No, none of it.
The guy's got like 9 letters in his name. 4 of them are
okay. But listen, if I had to choose, listen, just for shits and giggles, if I had to choose, I would rather lose to Nebraska and Illinois the next 2 weeks. And that, well, does that mean
that means it's an Ohio State?
Okay,
win?
that's what I'm saying. So yes, by nature of the question, I'm just gonna push the question off. I can't answer it.
I mean, Sean, what are we doing? If this means that you lose to Nebraska and Illinois and then beat Ohio State, I'd probably go that route. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, if it means those 2 losses mean a win against Ohio State, then yes, absolutely.
Chris would have Dan Marino eyes. That's a new thing. Dan Marino eyes is a thing. I'm getting some Marino eyes.
He's got Dan Marino eyes.
Wow.
Ben Davis, right? We can just change it.
That was a lot of volume. Tim Cornet, not trying to ignore you, but we have not 100% finalized the location for Rosie.
We think we know, though.
Right now, we're leaning back to 517 Berkeley.
517 Berkeley.
The first 4 games of the year.
Close to the stadium. It's about like a 2-minute walk to the stadium. Very close. Nice little spot right there on Berkeley where we have internet, we have power, and our boy Doug there, he's always holding it down. He has a nice little tailgate, some people over. So it's looking like that's where we're going to be. If you're planning on coming out to the tailgate, Berkeley is the most likely landing spot unless something happens last minute.
We will have a final decision made on Friday, so you will know before Saturday gets here. But that's what it looks like. We've looked at a place further down on State Street, which would be good for car traffic, but it's a hike.
Dude, your boy's not trying to walk. I'm not trying to walk.
Yeah, I mean, 30 pounds, dude. Remember, the mall we looked into, I thought it was going to be a very possible choice because it was super cheap, but it turns out it's not. Cars parked there for free. RVs, not even close to free. So they're out for sure. They're out.
And you get no power, right? No power internet out there?
No internet. Yeah, but if it was free like the cars were, then we might have been like, well, what the hell, for Nebraska, we'll go out there.
Yeah.
Not happening. And where else did we look? Well, and we looked into the really good spots, but like it's just hard to justify for this week with the cost for a Nebraska game where we don't really have anybody else involved. And
I mean, why even beat around the bush? I mean, we're talking $3,000 a pop every time we're in one of those premium spots, and we're 2 guys who
just we're doing trying to make it
just a couple of dinks, but certainly paying $3,000, $6,000, $9,000, potentially $12,000 in tailgating fees over 4 weeks is just not something that we're really interested in. And so, yeah, those premium spots are great, but they certainly come at a premium cost. And with Nebraska and with Illinois, I don't think it makes that much sense. Now, if Ohio State was coming to town, or like we did with Penn State, Michigan State, it made sense. But with some of these other games, it's really hard to justify that cost. Yes, Fletch Lives Daily, $3,000 a pop.
Yes, sir.
Each time, and we did it twice.
Yeah, I mean, not awesome, but no, it was awesome, but
it was awesome.
That's a lot. That's a lot for us to undertake, and it's something that
what, Darren May, you're right. You make a compelling case. I missed it.
What happened?
Well, he says SI should hook it up, foot the bill.
That's a discussion for another day. All right, Chris Fields, another donation. That's like the third one I think today. I don't even know. Okay, he gave us $5 to talk about leaving his house without a wallet or a hat. I'm assuming he's talking to somebody else. But thank you, Chris. We appreciate that. We really
unless we missed it, clarify. Yeah, I don't know if that was directed towards us, but the $5 is greatly appreciated.
Not sure why Fletch is asking. Are we both under 6 feet? I'm over 6 feet.
Listen,
that.
I am also over 6 feet. I feel like I've been 5'11" since like 6th grade. Like I was one of those guys that was like the tallest in my class all through middle school. And then I just stopped growing and was that way the rest of my life.
Not me.
You were scrawny.
That is another photo I could. Dude, I showed the picture of the frosted tips, and you know what happened from there. If I showed this picture of how small and scrawny I was, it would be a whole other can of worms.
Tiny guy.
Wow. I'm like a program 6'2".
Dude, I was the center on our 6th grade basketball team. The center. Your boy was in there like Mutombo doing work in 6th grade. No. With a bowl cut, though.
Ooh, a bowl cut. Yeah, everybody had one. You had the long one parted down the middle, didn't you? I know you did.
Listen, it was where you parted down the middle and then you shave up underneath so that the top flaps down over it, and then you put a lot of like mousse and product in it. Yeah, your boy was doing all right.
So I never had the long hair because I had the cowlick. It just didn't really work. So I did the buzz bowl. So it was like a two right here. And my dad, who's in the building right now, took it down to the skin, bicked it for the basketball camp.
Ooh, wow.
Your boy was getting it in at the one spot at about 4'3", 65 pounds.
Listen, somebody out there said my mom had a good question about the tunnel. Mom, I see that you're in the comments right now. Throw it back up. I don't know if I saw it, but
this one? She cut that hair?
No, about the tunnel. Yeah, she did that. Oh, she did the hair. Dude, I had her do lightning bolts in the side, and I believe one year we actually colored in the lightning bolts maize and blue. Wow. So it was real. I had a bowl cut with a rat tail at one point, if you really want to get down to it. Braided rat tail. Let it grow out.
That's going to do it for us tonight on the rat tail. No, I'm kidding. That's bold. Here's your mom's question, Chris.
I was making a lot of mistakes.
Any tunnel changes for security reasons? Jim Harbaugh said there might be some decisions made on that this week. I don't know if that has happened. I haven't seen anything or heard anything. It wasn't, George Hilo and Mike Hart aren't going to address that today, but nobody else said anything this week. It's Wednesday. We're getting close to the end of the week now. I don't know. I flat out don't know. I don't have an answer for that question.
Well, and here's the other thing. I don't know if there's going to be security changes. There might be more of an emphasis on just making sure that the team holds back. But here's what I would say. It felt like there was plenty of security in the tunnel when the whole Michigan State brawl went on, and that didn't really seem to do much. So if they are making some changes, great. But at the end of the day, like Jim Harbaugh has said multiple times, that tunnel has been in existence for, nearly 100 years. And you've had a couple incidents this year. And I think that, there's a lot of places around the country where it's a single tunnel in and out. And we've seen examples of it working and being just fine. But when you get into some of these hotly contested games where especially it's against a bitter rival, I think everybody just needs to do a better part of making sure that there is a very clear division as to who goes in where. But also, if you're the first team up the tunnel, get your ass into the locker room. Don't mosey about. Don't take your time, because the Michigan Wolverines aren't trying to wait either. So I don't know, man. I'm so sick and tired of talking about that goddamn tunnel.
It's been
It drives me nuts.
It's been one of those things, and I mean, nothing like
injustice to the Lloyd Carr tunnel. I mean, come on, show some respect. Throwing peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, hitting people in the heads with helmets. What are we doing? What are we doing? Just go to your goddamn locker room. Take the L and go to the locker room. And if somebody's jawing at you, deal with it. Be a man. People shit talk all the time. I don't reach into my car and pull out something and start slapping them in the head with like a tire iron and some shit like that because they happen to talk to me. Like, just be a normal human being. It's sports. People talk shit. Deal with it.
My blade doesn't return to the sheath until it has spilled blood. That's what I would say. That's what I'd have told him. All right, Mike Allen. I think that's my uncle. I'm curious about this. I am. Yeah. Jalen Harrell, Ryan Hayes. By the way, I saw Hazer today. He was walking into Shem. Looked totally fine. I mean, I know he didn't play last week. Could have been anything. I don't know. You got a calf strain or a bum elbow. I mean, you're not going to show it as you're walking into a building, but he looked fine. I'm curious. I think there was some sense going into the Rutgers game that like Michigan was kind of taking it easy. Like, this guy could play, but why? And, there were like 6 starters out. I think 2 or 3 on each side of the ball pretty much. So I don't think Jim Harbaugh really addressed it at all on Monday. And again, the assistant coaches today aren't going to. That's not really what they do. So I am curious. I mean, that's not, again, we've talked about the injury thing a bunch of times. We don't really dig too deep into it, but I will be curious to see as the weekend gets a little closer. News kind of starts to trickle out about that usually because there are some outlets that really chase that stuff down, and it'll spill out somewhere. But I'm interested to see. I mean, it's back home. The spread is even bigger over Nebraska than it was over Rutgers. So my thought process is
29, right? 29 and a half.
Wild, dude. My thought process is still, if those guys aren't 100%, they're not going to play. I mean, if they didn't play them last week on the road against a tough-nosed Rutgers team that you only beat by 7 last year, why the hell would they play this week against a bad Nebraska team when you're favored by damn near 30? I mean, that's just my kind of rationalizing it out, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything. And I'm, like Chris and I have said a bunch of times, we're not really going to chase that down. But I don't know. Do you think that matters, Chris? I mean, obviously, second half, it certainly didn't matter against Rutgers. But if you're missing a Jalen Harrell, a Jamon Green, a Ryan Hayes, who else was out that starts? There was one other starter, I think.
Not sure exactly. I don't have the list in front of me.
Yeah. Anyway, does it matter this week? I mean, would you be worried at all?
No, I mean, you got Braden McGregor back there. You still got Mike Morris. You got, you got guys that are serviceable and that can get that job done. And so you'd obviously like to see him back. I mean, he was a guy that we were super high on leading, coming into the season. But I remember during that Michigan State game, distinctly watching him walk around limping quite a bit. And so if that injury is still lingering, I would say, there's probably no need to bring him back for this week.
Trevor Keegan. So two of the starting offensive linemen were out last week. So no, did Keegan play? Now I'm confused. Hayes was out.
I don't know. I don't have the list in front of me.
He started for Roman Wilson. That's who it was. Roman Wilson was out last week. So I knew there were 3 starters. I thought maybe on 4 starters total, 6 total on both sides of the ball, whatever. Anyway, a lot of dudes out that play a lot of football. Bottom line. It doesn't feel like it matters. It really doesn't. I mean, I feel like Michigan's strength is going to be a strength, and they're going to impose their will on Nebraska and win going away. I mean, I just don't feel like it's going to be that challenging of a game. So I don't know. We'll see. You never want to disrespect an opponent or take them too lightly, but it just feels like really long shot for one of these teams to give Michigan an upset. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, dude, can you believe there's only 17 days left of the regular season?
Oh.
17 days left of the regular season. It blows my mind. The college football season goes by way too fast.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
It needs to be like a 30-game season.
See, Chris, people care about my parlays, okay? You might not. 170 of the other people in here might not, but Cal, I'm sorry, I don't have a parlay lined up yet.
He'll get one for you by the end of the week. Don't you worry.
I regret to inform that my account is on 0 as of yesterday. I had a big hit on the very first week of college football, and I have been playing off of that chunk all season, and it's now empty. So
that's how they get you. That's how they get you.
Maybe don't listen to me when I tell you what kind of bets I'm making. No, but I'll have a little something for you on Friday.
It's the same tactic that the strippers use. At the beginning, they make you think like, hey, this is great. Really it's all going the way. And then by the end of it, you're broke and you're like, what the hell happened there? And what did I pay for?
And they're going home to their
Not that I would know personally.
Right. I mean, that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. All right. Where are we at? There's got to be another question in here. Oh, Chris, I think this is good. CJ, thank you for bringing this up because I actually didn't even get a ton. I mean, I've seen the content that was created, but Chris, another NIL opportunity with one Mike Morris and one Mike Sainristil.
Yeah, so it's been a cool relationship that we built with Ali over at Sonny's, and then after we did the first one with Mozzie, Andrell, and AJ, naturally there were a few other players that were pretty interested in that, and we had exchanged some messages, and so tried to set that whole thing up again. It kind of came together last minute. We went out there last night in Novi, met them at about 7:30 at the mall, and it's just incredible. I mean, you see these guys on the field and you see them in their element and they're locked in and they're focused. But then when you get in these rooms with them, I mean, and I said it in the post that I put out, but Mike Morris, Mike Sainristil, just two of the nicest, most humble guys that you will meet, and phenomenal representations of the University of Michigan. And it's to be in a position where you can give guys like that an experience like that. And the message I got from Mike Sainristil was incredible. I mean, he was gracious. He was thankful. He had said some really nice things. I just think it's really cool to be able to do stuff like that. And I don't want to get on a soapbox too much here, but I see a lot of what has come out with NIL has been with the fan in mind. Like, what is the fan going to get out of it? It's got to benefit the fan. And to me, NIL is, what are the players getting out of it? Like, I want it to be 100% for the players. And so to be able, for Ali to open up his shop and the players to come in and have an experience like that, to me, that's what NIL is all about. And I want to continue to do more of those things. And so incredible experience for me, incredible experience for my wife. And listen, them boys can shop. I can tell you that right now. Those boys can shop. We took good care of them, and hopefully we left them locked and loaded for the holidays.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. I mean, like, it's cool if the fans can get involved, but getting the players paid for NIL should not fall on the fans, and they shouldn't be front of the line when it comes to who benefits from it. I mean, like, that's not what it's for. It's fine if they do. It's fine if there's some sort of event where the players and fans can interact, and it can be this, it can be that. But it's name, image, and likeness. And no offense, Sean Bennett, CJ Frazier, Darren May, I don't care about your name, image, and likeness that much. Okay, like, you're not filling stadiums. And I just grabbed you three because Darren's talking about porn, Sean's talking about betting, and CJ is talking about canceling me on Twitter. All right, so those are the three guys.
But listen, what was great about it is they didn't have to do anything. There was no autograph session. They came in, they shopped, they got the red carpet experience in the back where they got to go through the whole inventory and pick out some things. And to me, like, that's what I want those players to experience when they're doing NIL with me, is that it's a fun experience. It's an easy in and out, and then you walk away from it and, you want to do it again. And so trying to do NIL a little bit different. There's a lot of people out there that have put together these, fans pay per month for access to X, Y, and Z. And I think that's great. And I think it's awesome that fans have the opportunity to go on and ask players questions. But at the end of the day, that's not what I want to build. What I want to build is an incredible experience for the student athletes who, quite frankly, work their asses off between class and practice and the games. They've got a lot of stuff going on. I just want to make something really cool for them that they can come in and enjoy. And I think that's what we've been able to develop at Sonny's with Ali, and very appreciative of that relationship we've developed.
Fletch, this is an interesting question, and one that,
yes,
Chris and I have gone back and forth on a little bit, at least in terms of how things are trying to be done at this point at Michigan, at other places. There's different approaches everywhere. I see people in the comments mentioning the collectives and things like that. So Fletch's question is, are there players on the team that get no NIL money at all? Well, first of all, foreign-born players, to our, at least as far as we understand it, cannot participate in NIL. So like that was David Ojabo a year ago. He wasn't able to capitalize. I wouldn't be surprised if that led to, at least was a small factor in Musa Diabate and Caleb Houston, who were both foreign-born players, going to the NBA because they were not able to make any NIL money. But beyond that, as an actual like stipulation and regulation because of their status as students, I guess you have to ask yourself, like, do you think like JJ McCarthy, the starting quarterback at Michigan, should get more of an opportunity and make more money than a third string guard true freshman who hasn't played one snap all year?
Well, let me start off by let me start off by saying
it's like contract situations in the NFL.
Yeah, let me start off by saying that there are some players that, yes, get no NIL money because they're foreign-born players or they've come over. So last I checked, those guys are still not eligible to receive any NIL dollars. But yeah, I mean, there are certainly, there's walk-ons. There are players that are lesser known on the team or don't have as big of a role. I think it's like anything else, man. I think you earn what your worth is, and whatever your market value is whatever your market value is. And so, this idea of splitting funds evenly throughout the team as money comes in, I've never subscribed to that. Either. Look at a guy like JJ McCarthy and Blake Corum, they're probably happy to do that. They want to make sure that the other guys are also benefiting from NIL. And I think it's good for the culture. I think it's good for the program. But at the end of the day, if you're a marquee player and you're in high demand, I feel like you should be able to benefit of it. That's what name, image, and likeness is all about. You benefit from your name, your image, your likeness, and not every name, image, and likeness is the same. They're not all equal.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly. I was going to come up with the word equal too, and you were going right there. I mean, it's like it sounds a little harsh, but it's just life. I mean, you go out, you get a job. If you're valuable, you do this, you do that. You make a little bit more than someone who doesn't bring the same things to the table. Like
for instance, let's just say you walk into a place and there's a sign that says, hey, you can talk to Chris Breiler from the Winged Helmet for X amount of money, or you can go talk to JJ McCarthy for X amount of money. I don't expect people to try to like split their money between the two. I would expect the line for JJ McCarthy to be substantial and for me to be basically eating a hot dog at a table by myself. That's how it should be. That's how it should be.
I thought you were going to do me and you. I was like, all right, let's hear the shit.
No, I wouldn't want to create conflict there. But I mean, I'm saying like, that's just the way it is. Like some guys are more marketable, they're more visible. And I feel like that's what NIL is all about, that you're supposed to be able to capitalize on that because quite honestly, some of these deals that these guys are securing in college, you never know what the future might bring. And you never know, what could happen. And some of these deals and these dollars that are coming in may be crucial to them in the future. And so I just think that, yeah, if you're a marketable player, the idea of splitting it evenly among the team has never made sense to me. I think if you're marketable and you're a marquee player, you should be able to capitalize off that. And a lot of guys are able to do that. And that's part of what we're doing. Like, I'm not inviting, and I don't want this to sound shitty. I don't want it to come off bad.
This is what I was just going to say. So finish your thought, and then I've got something else that's going to be the same thing.
I'm not inviting like walk-ons to come out and have that type of shopping experience. Like if you look at the guys that have come out, it's Mozzie Smith, Andrell Anthony, AJ Henning, Mike Sainristil, Mike Morris. I mean, these are guys who are starters. These are guys who are visible. These are guys who do a lot for the program. And I feel like they should reap the benefits of that. And so I try to, to me, that's where NIL is the most impactful, is you take a group of these guys and you try to give them a special experience. It would be a totally different animal if it was like, all right, let's bring 100 of the players in here and try to give them all a pair of kicks. Like it would just lose the value. So I do think there is something to the fact that, yeah, there are going to be some guys that get less money for NIL. And that's, I don't make as much money as the executives at Sports Illustrated or who, it's just the way the world works. And I think that the earlier people can embrace that, the better off everything would be.
Dwayne Jones's comment is going to solidify what I was about to say. NIL is an individual thing. I could not agree more. And that's not to try to drive a wedge. That's not to try to create division, because like anybody who's ever played sports at every single level, whatever the sport is, like the best guy is the best guy. Like
think about it, equate it to playing time. Equate it to playing time. Is JJ splitting reps evenly with Davis Warren and Alan Bowman? No.
Right. So what I was going to say is, let's say you're an average Joe out there. You work hard for your money. Maybe you've got a young kid who's a huge fan of Blake Corum, loves Blake Corum. I want to give $10 to Blake Corum on behalf of my kid. My kid took out the garbage for a month and a half every single day, saved up $10, wants to give it to Blake Corum. If some of the things that are in place for Michigan right now, and I know other schools have it as well, and some are lacking in the individual arena and all that stuff. If you were to go in and give your $10, you're giving each player like 8 cents. Like that just doesn't make any sense to me. Like if you want to direct that money to a certain player, or you think this player is more important to whatever. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. We've all been fans of different players of different teams over the course of the years. Like if I was going to a Pistons game back in the day, I wanted to see Grant Hill. I didn't really care about anybody else. So like that's
my God. The fact that you brought that up, who was it? Zelik is, and I'm going to slaughter this name. Zeliko Rabracha. Is that a name? Is that
yeah.
So, okay, so listen. So Zelly, I remember I had my Rip Hamilton jersey. I was at the Pistons game. I was waiting for him to come in so I could sign it. And Zeliko came up and like attempted to sign my Rip Hamilton jersey, and I like pulled it away from him. I'm like, no, I don't want your signature on this jersey. Like that's the way it is. Like there's certain players that you want their signature, you want to be able to do NIL things with them, and then there's other players that, you know, if they can benefit something from NIL, it's great, but I don't think it should be equal across the board.
I remember Zelly. I didn't remember this about him. Just became an even bigger fan. Frosted Tips.
Frosted Tips, of course.
And just rocking 39 in the NBA. I mean, he's doing it all. He's doing it all.
Dude, can you imagine being at the pro level and somebody pulls a jersey away? It's like, no, not you.
Yeah. Wow. Zeliko Rabrashka can remember that.
Warranted.
Dude, what a name drop on episode 156.
Zeliko Rabrashka. Did not think I would ever say that name on any of the pods.
And as soon as you said it, I remember Zelly. He'd get in there and just bang foul like 4 dudes and go sit down.
Yeah.
Carved out a spot for himself in the NBA for a while as a Detroit Piston. Also was a Clipper. I don't remember where else he played, but anyway. He even went full Slim Shady for a while.
Oh goodness. Look at him. Detroit through and through.
Just backing down the Big O. Is that the Big O? No, that's
were you thinking Charles Oakley?
No. Oliver Pig Miller. That's not him. It's got a Y on the end of his name. Anyway, what the hell are we? We're losing cabin pressure, dude. We're looking at Zeliko Rabrashka's hair. You're talking about how you dissed him as a 10-year-old.
I'm halfway through my second winged helmet brew, which is the alcohol content's pretty heavy, so getting dicey over here.
Oh boy, another beautiful, glorious show. Well, we'll be back on Friday.
We will be.
Predictions. You're dumb, you're smart. I'll have a parlay for Cal G. I'll line it up for you. You know what?
Dwayne Jones, that's a great question. Let's answer that before we get out of here. Let's take that one last question because I think Dwayne Jones is asking a good question there. Is Jesse Minner an upgrade from Mike McDonald, or is it just a matter of a second year in a similar system?
Man, that is a... Wow, that's a good question because I feel like I changed my mind like 3
times. Let me
times.
ask you right now, if you could push a button and it's stay with Jesse Minner or you bring Mike McDonald back, which button are you pushing?
I think I'm staying with Minner. Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
He's getting as much or more production without 2 first-round pass rushers.
Yeah. Yep.
But by the way, Mike McDonald has done some really nice things with the Ravens in the pros. So like
He has.
the dude's legit.
He has.
Flip a coin. I don't know.
Look at the comments. Minter.
That's
well,
great.
Now you got one Mac from Sean Bennett, Chad Zolman, Mike.
We don't do a lot of this on the show, but I don't think there's a wrong answer. I like us both to take a stance and say something. I think you could flip a coin and you'd be fine. I really do, man. It's weird. This question's really good because I've found myself finding it strange a couple of times this year how the players are like, yeah, we're just really comfortable in the second year in the system. We're really comfortable now. We know everything. It's like second nature. I'm like, do they know that it's a different coach than they had last year? Like, it's just so weird to hear them say that, but they genuinely feel like nothing at all has changed from last year to this year, but it's a completely different guy running the show. I feel like that's really rare. Like really rare.
I'll say this. Give me Minter. I'll take Minter. I like what Minter has done. The halftime adjustments have been impressive. The defense looks great. Overall defense, I can't remember where they were ranked. I put out an article. They got the number 2 overall defense in the country right now. So
yeah,
Minter is doing his thing. Let's just keep it as is, and I'll roll with Jesse at least through Columbus, and then we'll see what it looks like.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. I mean, the sack numbers are up. I think turnovers are up. Forced or takeaways, I think, are up a little bit. Scoring average is about the same. Yeah. Hard to argue and hard to make a hard stance on that one, I think. So. Anyway, thanks for toughing it out. Rough start tonight for your boy. Almost got canceled. Almost drowned in a BFM.
Hey.
A lot going on.
A lot going
on a Wednesday. We'll be back on Friday night, 7 o'clock. Predictions. Talk much more about Nebraska.
Well, hold on a second. Are we not going to be in Detroit on Friday?
Oh, damn it. Got to
press pause, record scratch, pause. I don't know that we will be doing a live show on Saturday because your boys are going to be down in the D at LCA. I'm going to be on the sideline shooting my first Michigan basketball game, which I'm very excited about. Brandon's going to be up in the press box, and we're going to watch Michigan take on Eastern Michigan.
We just did an hour and 17 minutes and didn't say one word about basketball, Jet Howard, Hunter Dickinson.
None of it.
Nothing.
Well, I mean, we're knee deep into football.
Yeah,
we're neck deep into football. But
I'm surprised that nobody brought it up, though. Nobody.
But in terms of that Friday show, we will be down in Detroit. We will be at LCA. So if you're going to be down there, maybe we'll see you down there. We'll say hi. I don't know what that means for the Friday show. Maybe we'll try to make up for it on Saturday.
Well, I was going to say, depending on what our day looks like, what time we get there, what time things wrap, maybe we can do a quickie.
Yeah.
A quick one. No, don't say quickie. Maybe we could do a quick show before or after the basketball game. It wouldn't be an hour. We wouldn't get into all the same stuff we normally do. But that's for the brain trust to figure out. You guys tune in when we're here. That's all we need from you. We'll figure something out.
Something will come on Friday.
Yeah. Friday, I forgot about that. Friday is going to be a little bit out of pocket in the evening. The game's at 9 o'clock, so that's why I'm wondering, like,
dude, I'm hoping I can even stay awake. If you see your boy in standby mode by like the second half, like just take a long stick and poke me, or make sure you can wake me up, because that's
Chris will just be floor seats, like.
The paramedics are going to come out to make sure I'm not dead. I'm just like, no, it's just that it's 9:30.
Are you guys seeing this bald, bearded, tattooed man? How did he get in here?
Who the hell gave that guy a credential?
We got eyes on this guy.
That's what that's what we're going to see at LCA on Saturday.
There's no doubt.
All right, I'm starting the music. We're getting out of here. We'll keep you posted on the Facebook page, wherever else, about what's happening on Friday. We will try to do something. But yeah, 7 o'clock probably not going to happen. I forgot about that. It slipped my mind, but we are going to LCA to cover that basketball game against Eastern Michigan and Ypsilanti's own Imani Bates. I'm excited to watch that game.
Imani Bates.
So anyway, all right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you soon. We'll let you know when that is, but you're never going to get rid of us, so we'll be back. Thanks, everyone.